Welcome to On the Outer Tips for round 9. Interesting round this week, boys. Most games are a team inside the 8 playing a team outside the 8, but a chance for a few upsets. So we'll see how we go with that. Gus is here. Lemons is here as well. Would you like to run us through what happened last week, Lemo?
The inevitable finally happened, and I have won a round of tipping with a monstrous 6 correct tips. And you two footy experts both scored 5, so that means
I've never called myself an expert.
silly hats for the two of you, and my head shall remain unadorned. Which makes the leaderboard, if anyone's playing along at home, Tom's still leading on 49, Gus on 42, and me on 41. Creeping back into the conversation. So,
All right.
Pretty exciting times.
It's
Fits you pretty well.
silly hat time for us then, Gus.
I've got a new one. Oh wow, Tom! I just want to make it known that this hat isn't silly. Much like yours, some of yours, Lemons. This hat isn't silly except when I'm wearing it. So
yeah,
the hat
Tom's one looks pretty silly all the time.
Tom's hat's
just
silly
a
hat.
straight up silly hat.
Yeah. Is that a Christmas hat?
It is a gold hat that I got from a $2 shop. I can't remember why. I think it was just a gag. All right, Friday night. We'll start this week. Now, normally we do this on a Thursday. We are actually recording on a Tuesday this week due to circumstances, so we don't know all of the latest news. But Collingwood Western Bulldogs.
This one the weirdest gag.
This one's a pretty interesting game. Both teams certainly capable of good footy, but haven't been showing it that much lately. I think I'm probably going to go with the Dogs. I expect that Bont will come back in, Keith will come back in, and the fact that it's at Marvel, I think will give them the edge. But I think I'm looking forward to it. I reckon it'll be a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think that, I'm going to tip the Western Bulldogs because they're just so much more talented. That's obvious. But if we're going to be talking about the team that just looks like they're more interested in playing AFL football, Collingwood is by far and away ahead of the Dogs. The Dogs just look really disinterested and looked bad last week against Port. So they'd want to have a response at this point because this is now getting to the point, getting to that area with the Dogs where I think questions are going to start being asked. I mean, they already are, but about culture and about internal stuff. So they really want to come out and beat Collingwood on Marvel. I think they will, but I could definitely see an upset in this one, just on energy and effort that Collingwood is bringing to the table.
I completely agree with you, Gussie, which is why I'm going with the Pies. I thought the Dogs looked bloody awful this week, and whilst Collingwood might not have the talent to keep up with them, they play hard, and I think that's going to be the difference. So I really think Collingwood are going to get an upset, which is a surprise. The Dogs have just been so bad. I can't believe they're favoured.
Hawthorn, Richmond, the first game of a Saturday afternoon. At least we don't have a Friday double game. That sucked last week. Richmond have, I guess, sort of roared back into contention, theoretically, with big wins over Collingwood and West Coast. Tom Lynch really crushed the Hawks. Now, both of those games. Now, Peter Wright smashed Hawthorn's tall defenders last week as well, so I guess Tom Lynch would potentially be on for a day out again. I'm going to tip Richmond. I think what we're seeing is a bit of a correction with Hawthorn. I don't think they're as good as the 3 and 5 suggested they potentially were. So, yeah, I think the Hawks might not win a lot more games this year. So, yeah, Richmond for me.
Yeah, I think Richmond will be too good here. I think Hawthorn just a bit slow through the middle, which is not something you generally say about young sides, but unfortunately that's where they're at the moment with their midfield. And then not having Jath, it's been out for a few weeks now, but I think he really is a big loss with the way that they play. So I think Richmond will be a bit too zippy and, they should be able to get the nod, especially, like you said, Lynch. Their back tall defence isn't particularly strong at the moment.
They're just so vanilla, Hawthorn. Yeah. They're just not very fun or creative or exciting.
Hawthorn looked bloody awful against the Bombers. That second half was an absolute shocker by their like by their performance. We were talking
Would
before
you
the show.
call it a shit show?
I would call it a shit show. So I'm going to go Richmond just because I have no idea what kind of team Hawthorn's going to come out with. Like, if they play anything like they did in the second half against the Bombers, they're going to lose by 1,000,000 points. So, yeah, I'd say Richmond pretty comfortably, I think.
Rightio, North Melbourne versus Port Adelaide. This one in Hobart. Now, big week news-wise for North Melbourne. Well, it was in the news. I guess it was about 6 weeks ago as far as North are concerned. So maybe not as big internally as it was externally. Port Adelaide are looking like a much better team than they were a few weeks ago. They seem to have at least somewhat flicked the switch. Whether or not they can go on with it and make finals is still a tough ask. They should be able to knock off North. I do expect some response from North Melbourne. It would be pretty weird if we just got some limp kind of, turning up of the heels in this game after the week they've had. But Port Adelaide, I think, are too strong.
Yep, I'm going to go with Port Adelaide as well. I don't know whether it was Western Bulldogs looking bad or them looking good last week, but it was one or the other, and I think Port are still going to be good enough to beat North pretty easily as well.
Yeah, Port Adelaide. North are terrible. They really shouldn't be. In the competition,
they're
so bad. They won't. I don't think they'll win another game. Cincioda versus Geelong. Cincioda versus Geelong. This one's at Marvel. Cincioda coming off a couple of quite disappointing performances, I think, where they sort of show that they're probably not the top 4 side that they were flying at beforehand. Geelong is tough. I think at Marvel, I'm going to back St Kilda here, just because I also just don't think Geelong's that good either. The Saints for me, but this one's a real toss up. I think this is a tough game to pick.
Yeah, real toss up here. I think this is probably the game of the round. Geelong will get back Stanley, but I thought Blitzar's played awesome in the ruck, and I wonder if they'll, keep him there as a sort of a second ruck utility.
He always does, though.
He always does, but then they've got DeConning now to play full back, so I think that could potentially change things up a bit. This is a real 50-50 one for me. I'm going to go with the Cats. I just think that they had a really good win last week, and like we discussed, they went back to the way that they know how to win, and that got them the result. And I think that'll be irresistible for the coaching staff, so they'll stick with it.
It was always going to happen. They played fast footy for 6 weeks, and then they're just we're going to go back to our chipmunk style.
That's it.
I am also going to go with Geelong. I think it's a 50-50 call, basically, like you say, and because of that, I'm going to go with, the team that I grew up where I was watching, so go with Geelong just for that reason and that reason alone. Also, every time I seem to tip Geelong in a close one, they come through for me, so hopefully that pattern continues and Cats can get a victory here. All right, next game of the round, we got Swans versus the Bombers on Saturday night. This one's at the SCG. Bombers got a win, as I said, against Hawthorn, coming back real strong, looked real good, and I don't necessarily think it was the Bombers looking that good more than Hawthorn sort of falling apart. I don't know, we sort of have differing opinions on that, but even still, I don't think it's going to matter. I think Swans are going to win by a lot in Sydney. I feel like they need to shake off some cobwebs or something. I feel like Sydney has stumbled a little bit the last couple of weeks, and smashing Essendon by 10 goals should sort them out pretty comfortably, I reckon.
Swans, I think that's 3 losses in a row at the SCG. They don't seem to be able to play very well at home. However, we all know what happens when Essendon go up to Sydney. The umpires conspire against us and we get screwed over. Everyone knows it's true, Tom. Don't shake your head. And so I'm going to tip Sydney in this one.
I'm very tempted to go with the Bombers here. I think Sydney...
Yeah, so am I, to be honest.
Yeah, a bit sketchy. Yeah. Ridley and Kelly and those guys will be back in after their late withdrawals last week. I think I might just tip the Bombers here. I think I've just got a sneaky feeling. Like, these games are always so close. And, if it's close at the end, I think I'm going to back the Bombers in for a back-to-back win after they got their mojo back.
be good.
Adelaide Oval, this one probably less enticing. Brisbane going up to play the Crows on Saturday night. Not much to say here. I think similar to what you were saying about Hawthorn, Gus. I think the Crows are falling back. They hang around. Like they've been competitive for a good third of the year, but I think that's probably about where it will end. They'll have another couple of wins, good wins through the year, but yeah, they're struggling at the moment. And Brisbane just have so many attacking weapons. Like I don't know how Adelaide's going to be able to contain all of them. Cameron, Bailey, Zorko, Neil. Like there's just so many guys that can hurt you. So Brisbane with a pretty comfy win.
Oh yeah, I mean Brisbane will win this game. There's not much to talk about, is there? Like, I'm sort of interested to see if they bring back Matt Crouch, just to more as a point of interest. Like they've just re-signed him, and then
Matt Crouch is not playing. They've dropped.
I'm really impressed that you know this on Tuesday evening.
Yeah, I've just got this like simpatico thing with Matthew Nicks. They've dropped 5 players and 1 injured, and they've brought back a whole bunch of dudes, of which Matt Crouch isn't one. So, yeah, Hipwood is in for Brisbane. So there you go.
Yeah, but they'll win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions as well. This one feels like a pretty easy one for me to tip.
All right, next one is Gold Coast Suns versus Freo at Metricon. It's sort of hard because I feel like this should be a big game for the Suns because they've just beaten Sydney, but Freo are just a class above the Suns and Sydney. Like, they're so good, and it sort of sucks for the Suns that this game where they could try and potentially put a few wins together is coming up against what might be the form team of the competition aside from Melbourne. So I'm going to tip Freo. I just wish I could tip the Suns because I almost feel like they deserve it. But yeah, Freo for me.
Yeah, Freo for me as well by like a goal. I reckon they'll push them right to the edge. Let's not forget, I haven't heard this discussed as much as I would imagine it would have last week, but Noah Anderson as a laid out, like he's been probably their best midfielder for most of this year. Like Miller's obviously a gun, but Anderson's been right up there getting just as many clearances as Miller has, and he didn't play last week and they still won. So he coming back in, they're going to be even stronger, but I think Freo will be too good in a real test.
I feel like I have no idea when the Suns are playing, when they're going to be good or when they're going to be bad. I just haven't been able to get a feeling on them all year. But whereas Freo have been good, and I feel like pretty confident that they will be good. So I'm like, I think the Suns could win, but I just have no idea like what they're going to do. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to go with Freo, but it's a bit of a toss-up, really. This is a tricky one. So hopefully the Dockers can get it done.
I don't think this is a toss-up at all. Just
you don't reckon?
FYI, I think Freo are going to pump the Suns. But anyway,
didn't you just say the opposite?
No, I said I wish I could tip the Suns, not that I think it's going to be close.
All right. Yep. All right. Well, that's that. GWS Carlton. Now, this all of a sudden is a very interesting game because Harry Mackay is out, and not only for this week, but for 6 weeks. And Leon Cameron is gone. And isn't it funny how whenever we hear that a coach is sacked or resigned or whatever, everyone just automatically goes, oh, well, they'll probably win this week.
He's coaching this week, though.
Yeah, he's coaching this week, but like it'll be his last game. Like remember last year when Collingwood beat Melbourne in Nathan Buckley's last game? Like it's just this automatic assumption that because it's the last game that something miraculous will happen. And with Mackay out, that's a real chance. Lewis Young is also out too, which really hurts the Blues in terms of a structural thing. And with this one being a Giants stadium, I'm actually going to go with the Giants in a bit of an upset. I just think that all the signs are pointing that way, and I think they'll get over the line.
Yeah, I'm tipping the Giants as well. I actually think these teams are a lot closer together in terms of like talent and stuff than 5th and 15th or whatever it is. 4th and 15th would suggest. So when you factor in that, the bump that they should get from Leon Cameron being sacked and then resigning, And then the fact that it's at home, I'm tipping the Giants. And they're actually the favourites too. They're going in as favourites, the Giants.
This whole your coach getting sacked and you playing better thing makes absolutely no sense to me as someone from like AFL outsider. I'm like, that doesn't seem like a real thing that happens. So I'm going to go with the Blues to show my like naivete about this sort of unknown rule about winning games after your coach has been sacked. For me, it kind of seems like the Giants are in turmoil and the club is absolutely floundering and the Blues have been pretty good. So I reckon they'll be able to get a pinch a win up there at Giant Stadium. All right, last game of the round. We've got the West Coast Eagles versus the Demons in what may be the most lopsided affair to date of the season. This might be, you were talking about game of the round, well, this might be the worst game of the season so far as it is billed. So, yeah, good luck to anyone who is brave enough to watch this game. I'm going to tip the Demons.
Yep. I mean, the only question really would be if the Demons were like, we're going to fly over to Perth, let's just leave our entire squad at home, and they'd still win, but like how much would they win by? But they haven't done that. The only person they've left out at the moment is Bedford, who was the Medi-sub last week. So as far as we know now, which is Tuesday, they are looking like playing a full-strength team, and they should win this by well over 100.
This is going to be ugly, I think is the assessment that we're all coming up with. So, yeah, Melbourne for me. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning into our tips video. We do apologise that we didn't have a main show this week. It was Lemons' fault for just being Lemons, lemoning around. We're going to quickly do our reverse shine a light so we can finish off the show as we usually do. But we'll be back next week with another main body show and a tips show. So I picked Daniel McKenzie Tom from St Kilda as my shine a light in the hope that he either would play well or he would tag Tom Langdon and stop him down. Ed Langdon. Not Tom Langdon, Ed Langdon. Neither of which happened. Langdon had 39 touches, so I don't think anyone breathed on him, let alone tagged him. And McKenzie, I think, only had about 13 possessions, so I don't think I deserve a point for that one.
No, can't give you one there. Similar story for me. I had Lockie Schultz for Freo. Did okay, but he's played better games this year, and I don't think he did anything point-worthy against the Roos. So looks like we come up donuts last week, but who are you going with for round 9?
I'm going to go with Jackson Hatterley from Adelaide. Did a bit of a job attempting to tag Cripps on the weekend, so that didn't work out too well, but maybe you'll get a job and tag Lockie Neal, and I think Lockie Neal's a little bit more taggable than Cripper just because he just doesn't have that overwhelming physical size. So in the hopes that Haley can slow down Lockie Neal potentially, I seem to be picking taggers quite a bit, but that's my idea. I just need to check if he's in the team. Yes, he is. So, yeah, him.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because former first-round pick, and he's barely got a kick. All right, I'm very impressed with this guy this season, and I'm excited to pick him.
SPS.
SPS?
SPP.
SPP.
The spicy bell pepper.
Pepper? You know him, Lemons?
Yeah, I remember I messaged Gus one time being like, are they calling this guy Bell Pepper? What's the deal with it?
For all those out there, this is not an act. Lemons genuinely knows nothing.
Well, he beat us both in the tipping last week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think that says more about the tipping than it does about it. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I mean, no real... who are they playing? They're playing North, so that helps. But I just think he's had a really good year, and he's just become like a bit of a heart and soul dude. Like when he first came on the scene, he was like this accumulative midfielder who couldn't kick, and now he's just like a hard, tough half forward who gets 13 possessions, but the crowd loves him, and he's really good for morale and all that. So That's it. I reckon he's having a good year, and I expect him to have a good game.
And you told people who you had, Tom?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I did that.
Did you want to pick someone, Lemons, just for the lols?
I reckon I'll just go with my locked in every week tip with Sean Lemons to have a good
Spirit
game.
animal.
He actually had a pretty good game this week, like 14 possessions, I think he had, 10 marks or something like that, which is probably his best game of the season. I don't think that would have got him a point. I don't think he would have earned a point at any stage yet this season. But I reckon I'm going to lock in Sean Lemons in perpetuity for my reverse shot.
No, that's fair. That's fair enough.
Well, they're playing Freo, and Freo have a lot of good small forwards. So if he can lock one away and do a job, there's your bloody point, mate.
There we go.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning into our show this week. As I said, we apologise for not having a main show, but we'll have that back to you next week. If you're enjoying On the Outer, give us a subscribe on the tube or any of our podcast networks that we're on. If you want to get in touch with us, you can hit us up at ontheouter1@gmail.com or any of our social channels. And Tom's laughing at me. What did I say funny this time?
He just said that we're on podcast networks, like we're part of like Listener or iHeartRadio or something.
We're on a few networks. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Bye.
Cheers.
Yeah.